Hi, I'm here today to introduce Form. It's a new type of casting tape. It is not fiberglass. Even though the packaging looks like the fiberglass casting tape, it's not. It's the closest thing between plaster and fiberglass in the way it behaves. I've been in this field for 25 years. I was introduced to plaster way back when, and I still use plaster. I'm a prosthetist. But this material adds a lot of features that I can't get with plaster, and it adds some features that fiberglass did not have that I needed. First thing I want to tell you about this material is that as soon as I open it, it will absorb moisture out of the air and start setting it off, as well as the air. So it is time reliant. What I'm going to do to demonstrate the use of this, I'm going to cast myself. I'm going to cast my other arm one-handed, and I'm going to take it off one-handed, so you get the idea of the ease of the material and how compliant it is. So right now I'm just going to open it up, get started. The difference in getting this fiber is it's unlike fiberglass. We designed this so that it is harder to wet out. We wanted it to be drier. So by squeezing the tape, you are not driving all the resin of it out. You're driving water in, and that's what we need to do, is get it nice and moist. So as long as I'm talking about laying it dry, it's possible to take this cast with a dry roll and then come back and add water with a sponge, with a spritz bottle, any of those manners. And you can do that to only work on a certain area at a time to give yourself more time in your cast. This material has quite a bit of stretch, from no stretch to a lot. That allows it to be very conformable, and you'll see when I'm all done that it will lay down without much effort. With a single-handed effort, it'll lay down and do a very nice exacting cast. Now around my thumb here, I'm going to give it a little bit of slack and no tension, because I want to have some elasticity left to get my conforming. I recommend that you get at least 2 layers on here to get it to set up and be a little bit more watertight for your actual filling it up. The more layers you put on, the more exothermal reaction you'll get out of it. It's similar to plaster in that reaction. So I don't need this all, so I'm just going to cut off the remainder. Now, if you were here with me, you would get the chance to feel it get warm as I do. Until it starts getting warm, there's no sense molding it, because it's not doing anything other than driving the resins out. Now, unlike fiberglass, I can slide my hand on it all I want. It doesn't stick. I don't grab it and pull it with me. It stays where you want it. So it's very different from fiberglass in that manner, and that has to do with the way we designed the resin impregnation in this material. It also leaves my glove very resin free. Now I could do this with barehanded, but I don't recommend it, because then you have a resin on your hand. But it's possible, and I've done it. I've also done it on my arm without something in between, and it does not pull all the hair off my arm. Also, I don't recommend that. I recommend you have some sort of barrier between the skin and this material. So I just want to show you how much I can mold it in there. It's just starting to get warm right here where it's the thickest, right on my wrist. But I can get an entire conforming of my thumb. It's not thick enough right here right now, so I'm not going to deal with it. Just to show you, because I'm thick right here, I can put a penetration on my muscle and deform the muscle so I can contour my cast the way I want it. And it's going to keep my thumb impression as it gets warmer. So I could work over certain areas at a time. I could have just gotten this moist and then done my thumbprint. And then I still have the rest of it to do as I please. So now I'm going to get this shaping in, start in with it. If my hand starts sticking, because I'm pushing resin out of the tape when I'm molding, all I have to do is get my hand wet. All I got to do is dip it in my water, and then I'm slick again. Then I can slide around like plaster does to get my molding, to contour, to do all the shaping that I might want. Now, because this is a polyester, not a fiberglass, it has some other properties. One, it's not as stiff as fiberglass, but if it's given enough layers, enough thickness, it'll be as stiff as you want it. Now, if you're worried about the heat that the exothermal reaction puts out, what you can do is do one layer or a couple layers with one roll, give it a chance to set up, cure, put a second layer on it. This material will seal to itself. So you can use your first half of the cast, let's call it that, as a thermal barrier. So you do your first cast, and then over the top you do your stiff cast, just to stiffen it up. So you can see, I'm hoping you can see that in the camera, how I'm able to get an actual thumb impression in my muscle. And I'm starting to get my thumb, the actual thumb, in my cast on the other half. And you can tell if you've worked with fiberglass, to get that kind of contouring is difficult. So one of the properties, like I said a minute ago, is it'll stick to itself. So you can put 2 or 3 layers, doesn't matter, whatever you want. You can build it up. You can set off zones and work zones if that's what you want. You can dip it like I did and do the whole thing all at once. You've got time to work it. It goes a little faster if it's warmer outside, if you heat up the water, if you make extra layers, it'll go off hotter. That's up to the person doing the cast. Now, it has a couple other very interesting properties. One being, I can take this is because it's polyester, I can heat form it. It's not rigid like fiberglass. So I can come back in, heat this little dimple I put in, and pop it back out. I can take this cast, heat up the edge, and make a nice roll around the edge. The other issue that happens when you cut fiberglass is it's got all those fibers on your cutting line that are sharp and scratchy and can irritate your patient. This is polyester, so it won't irritate the patient. It doesn't have that kind of effect. Okay, we're almost completely set up here. Now, try to keep in mind I'm taking a one-handed cast here, and I could have done a little better job of getting some pretty impressions, but, you know, I am casting with my right hand, so it's working. So we're pretty much set. I'm going to take it off a little bit early. One of the advantages of not doing it real thick is that I just do it with a basic bandage scissors without a cutting strip. It's not difficult. I mean, if I can do it one-handed, you can certainly do it with 2 hands. Now, I also recommend that you don't use bandage scissors that have been used on plaster. Plaster is very abrasive and will dull your cutting ability. So try to start off with a fresh pair of scissors for this material and you won't have any issues. So if you were here, I'd be able to show you how smooth the edge is and how much it does not scratch. Notice my skin doesn't have any irritation on the cutting part. It don't have any resin on my skin. And I just have a sheer nylon inside that I had doubled over. So I'm hoping that you can see inside of here how smooth this is, how it doesn't rope because it's so elastic. And I did that one-handed. So if I was able to control my roll better with 2 hands like I normally do, you can make it extremely smooth. But right now this is very smooth. I don't have any roping issues with this material. So this is just a demonstration to show you how you're able to do it. If I wanted to spend more time, if I wanted it stiffer, I have used this for prosthetic test sockets. It's strong enough to do that. It is, but it's all about engineering it. You cannot do it with 1 layer. 1 layer is not stiff enough. 2 layers a lot stiffer. I don't know if you can see this Here's my thumb and the contouring I got inside. You can see my knuckle, you can even see my thumbnail is all evident. Now, to do that kind of contouring, that much shaping, is very difficult on a normal cast, shy of plaster. Plaster, on the other hand, I would be a mess. The floor would be a mess, and we have a real problem with that. And it probably would have taken 2 rolls to accomplish the same effect.